you weren't able to join us. So welcome everyone to Webinar Wednesday, where today's topic is going to be EQ for leaders. So if you're joining me for the first time, welcome to 𝙀𝙀𝙢𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙀. I've been doing these webinars on and off all through lockdowns up until now. You can find on our YouTube channel, just search 𝙀𝙀𝙢𝙤𝙤. You can find more than 50 of these 1-hour leadership and coaching topics uploaded to our YouTube channel, and some quite interesting topics there as well. So feel free to take a look at that. Just search 𝙀𝙀𝙢𝙤𝙤 and you'll find us on YouTube. And so if you're joining me for the very, very first time, welcome. And if you're joining us again, I'm seeing some familiar names there. Welcome back. And so without further ado, I am going to work through some slides today. Feel free to take any screenshots that you want. And as always, comments. Any questions that you have, any sharing that you would like to do, please do drop those into the chat box. In fact, you can start by letting me know where you're joining us from today. Just type in the chat box. Are you in Bangkok? Are you in Chiang Mai? Are you outside of Thailand? I would love to know where you're joining us from today. Hey, Shireen from KL. Awesome. So this 60 minutes is the quickest 60 minutes of my week. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? You can have a look at it. Please rest assured, what I'm sharing here, this exact same content, these principles, these techniques, if you like, I've been sharing with multinational organisations all around the region, all around the world. Face-to-face training is back here in Bangkok, Thailand, and of course around the region. I was in South Korea late last year. I'm driving out of the city tomorrow for a topic on psychological safety. So yeah, if you're wherever you're based, if your organisation is looking to do some leadership training or coach training, anything of that nature, let me know. I'd be happy to assist. And here is our agenda for today, an accurate definition of what emotional intelligence, we can just shorten that to EQ, of course, what it actually is, because I kind of think there's a little bit of a misconception about what EQ or emotional intelligence really is. So let's clarify that. Why is it important for leaders? Reaction versus response, and we're going to see that this is the key distinction that's going to help elevate your emotional intelligence. And there's a special tool that we developed here at 𝙀𝙀𝙢𝙤𝙤 called space. That's right, how to create space between that stimulus and that response, because that's where your emotional intelligence is happening. And we'll expand on that some more, of course. Some other best practices. I've got a few bonus tools for you to learn, and much more. Now, today's topic was actually inspired by a LinkedIn poll that I ran last week. I've never ran a LinkedIn poll before, but I figured it out. And the question on LinkedIn was, if you had to choose just one, what is the most important quality of a successful leader in today's ever-changing landscape of leadership? Now, what do I mean by today's leadership landscape is, you know, we had work from home, and then we've had hybrid working, and we're up to Generation Z or whatever letter of the alphabet we're at now. There's a lot happening in the world right now. There has been wars going on. There's been lockdowns, lock-ins, lockouts. There has been challenges with supply chain, you name it. It's been happening. So it's quite challenging for leaders right now. Now, on LinkedIn, I could only put 4 possible choices for the #1 most important quality of today's leaders. I actually wanted to put like 7 or 8. Anyway, I narrowed it down to 4, and 54% of respondents thought that emotional intelligence was the most important skill for today's leaders. So building on that kind of feedback, that survey, that's why we have today's content today. Because if LinkedIn thinks it's the most important skill that we need, then we should be talking about it. And I want to give you some actual leadership tools that can help you with your own emotional intelligence, and maybe even then to support your teams with their emotional intelligence as well. And of course, these tools for EQ in leadership, these tools will trickle over into your day-to-day life. So the exact same tools that we use in your leadership role and function, you can use with your family, with your kids, teenagers, and everyone that you come into contact with. So let us take a look. Yep, that's what we've got there. All right, so let's start with that definition, shall we? Now, it's a little bit wordy, this definition, and I found that it was the most kind of accurate, that really encapsulates all of the elements of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence means being aware, first of all, that being aware that our emotions actually drive our behavior, right? So it's an awareness that how you feel moment to moment, your emotion, that's actually the driver of our behavior. And our behavior is simply our actions or what we do, which also includes our communication, right? So our emotions drive our behavior. That's the first part. Those behaviors will impact the people around us, either positively impact them or negatively impact them, right? So our emotions drive our behavior. A negative emotion will most likely drive a negative behavior, and that will therefore negatively impact the people in your environment. And thankfully, the reverse is also true. Your positive emotion drives your positive behavior, thereby positively impacting the people around you. And part of emotional intelligence is also learning how to manage those emotions within us, right? This is not about sweeping emotions under the rug. This is not about, burying our head in the sand or just trying to pretend that everything is sunshine and rainbows. This is not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is you learning how to manage your emotions, because we all have down days, right? It's going to happen. You just wake up a little bit funky, a little bit cranky, whatever might be going on. That's going to happen. But to be able to manage your emotions is to lift you out of those negative emotions sooner rather than later, right? Anger is a good example. It's sometimes okay to feel angry. In fact, it's okay to feel all the emotions that you feel, even grief, right? If you have a dear and near and loved one pass away. These are all natural human emotions that we feel from time to time. What we want to be able to do is process those emotions in a positive way and to make it as a shorter time as possible. Now, the final part of emotional intelligence is being able to influence the emotions of others around you. Why? Because you're impacting people. Your emotions, whether you are aware of it or not, your emotions are impacting the people around you. And of course, if you are surrounded by people that you care about, whether they're your family or friends, or they're your work colleagues or subordinates, clearly you want to empower them in a positive way. And that starts right here with your own emotional management, with your own emotional intelligence. Cool? And if you have any questions, guys, remember to drop them into the chat box, please. So this little model explains it quite simply. When we think about emotions driving behavior, our thoughts, did you know, the thoughts that we think moment to moment, together with how we use our body, right, our body language, if you like, there's a synergy between the two, between the thoughts that you think day to day, moment to moment, and the way that you use your body moment to moment. There's a synergy between the two, where one affects the other. So in other words, your thoughts, your mind is always kind of monitoring and observing the body. and then the body is responding to what's going on in the mind, right? So there's this kind of synergistic partnership, if you like, between the two. Now, the result of that synergy is what we call our emotions, right? Or your emotional state, which is simply how you feel in this moment. So, for example, if I'm thinking positive thoughts, right, and I have a positive body language, you know, you've heard how confident people stand tall and their shoulders are back and they're, you know, they make eye contact. There are some examples of what someone might look like in their body language if they're confident. Well, if you think those confident thoughts and you have that confident body language, then what's the result? You have the emotional state, right? You're feeling right now of confidence, right? At the other end of the spectrum, if we're thinking negative thoughts, if we're not being mindful of our body language, right? We're kind of like, you know, then those negative thoughts, and that's, you know, I call it unproductive body language, will create a lower emotional state. You know, it could be anger, could be frustration, could be apathy or laziness, and so on. Now, depending then on your emotional state, how you feel in this moment in time, that determines your behavior. And your behavior is simply your actions, and it's what you do, right? Which includes the physical action that you take, and also the communication that you use with other people. That's part of your behavior. The way that you talk to others, that's an action, that is a behavior. So very simply, guys, what you do, the action that you take determines your results, right? So this is the mechanics of emotional intelligence at its most fundamental here, guys. What we're saying is your emotional state, how you feel at this moment in time, determines your results. That's how cut and dry and black and white it is. And you can think about this. You know, you've woken up some mornings and you feel kind of blah, you're tired, you're cranky, you had a weird dream, you've got a day that you're not looking forward to, you had a fight with your partner the night before, and you're just like, ah. And so you wake up in that lower emotional state. Well, you go through your day, the traffic sucks, everyone's negative, it's like people are growling, and you just have a horrible day, and the results that you achieve in that day, probably not so good. So those lower emotional states create lower actions and behaviors, and therefore lower results. Right? Thankfully, the opposite is true though. You know, you wake up in the morning, you feel well rested, you feel alive, you feel energetic. You kiss your wife or your husband, you play with the kids and the dog, and you're driving to work and you're listening to your music, and even though there's a traffic jam, you don't mind because you're living your best life, you've got the podcast running, and life is good. You have a great day at work, it's super productive, you're pleasantly surprised how collaborative everyone is. You're surprised how quickly and efficient that meeting was. You're surprised at the ideas and the brainstorming session that you had. So why did that happen? It wasn't a miracle. It happened because you managed your emotional state. You're in more of those positive emotions, happiness, joy, love, connection. And with those elevated emotions come better behaviors and better results. So at its most fundamental, our emotions equal our results. So is that important to manage our emotions, guys? Yes or yes? Tell me in the chat box. Is it important to manage our emotions? I'm going to guess that you're going to type yes, because it is. So at its most fundamental, again, how do we change our emotions? You can change your thinking, or you can change your body language. Change what you're doing with your body. You can binge Netflix for 4 hours when you're feeling a bit bummed out, or you can go for a walk around the block, or you can have a little bit of dance listening to some music, or you can go to the gym, or you can have a swim in the pool, or you can just do something to move your body around. So this is the mechanics of what's happening with emotional intelligence. So keep this in mind as we go through the rest of the slides. And I think we have a question here, right? So why is emotional intelligence important? Because did you know, this could be top secret. Did you know that it feels good to feel good? Yes, it feels good to feel good. Isn't that nice to know that it feels good to feel good? So this is why emotional intelligence is important. We don't want to feel bad on purpose. So if you can consciously choose to feel good, then please do so, because feeling good feels good. Secondly, and by the way, I want you to put some answers in the chat box here, please. Why do you think emotional intelligence is important? Get ready to type. As we just covered, emotions equal results. Higher positive emotions, better results. Lower emotions, lower results. This is why maintaining, as best as you can, those positive, uplifting emotions are important. Better decision making. Have you noticed when you're angry, when you're really angry, generally the quality of our decision making, it's generally not very good, right? We're making decisions from this angry, narrow, focused kind of emotional state. So no, we don't want to do that. You want to elevate your emotions because it comes with clarity. And with that clarity, right, comes better decision making. You're good to be around. Remember the definition? You impact the people around you based on your emotion. So here's the thing. If you're feeling bad all of the time, people don't want to be around you. They will find excuses. They will leave the room. They won't meet you for lunch because they just don't want to. And then your team, even though you might be their boss or their leader, they will find excuses to not come to the meeting, to not participate in that brainstorming, to not contribute to that project because you're no fun to be around, right? Again, the opposite is true. When you have those elevated emotions, when you're fun to be around, then you're going to attract people to you. Tell me, what else? Why is emotional intelligence important? Please tell me in the chat box now. Better health and well-being. It's been shown by science now that a positive attitude and mindset creates better health. A negative attitude with negative emotions creates illness and dis-ease. You only need to read any of the books by Dr. Deepak Chopra, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, all of these professional scientific doctors. There is so much evidence out there now that tells us that our thoughts and emotions create our health and well-being. Better resilience, right? So the better you can manage your emotions, then when the stuff does hit the fan, right? When that brown stuff, when you do have a problem or a challenge, you're more equipped to be able to deal with it in the moment. That's what we mean by resilience. That so if something does happen, and there is this thing called life, and some things are outside of our control, well, guess what? When you have better, higher, elevated emotions, you're better able to deal with and respond to any situation that is presented to you. What have we got in the chat box here? Thank you, Shireen. Self-fulfilling prophecy, you attract what you give out. Exactly, right? So if we pump out those negative, bad vibes, guys, that's what we draw to us, right? And the opposite is true. You pump out those happy, positive vibes, and you know when you're in a good mood, children, not your own, right? Children and animals are attracted to you. Right? If you want a barometer or a pulse check on whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood, see how other children, not your own, because you've already trained them a certain way, but other people's children, especially young ones, right? If younger kids are attracted to you or random pets and animals, again, not your own pets or animals because you've already trained them, but other people's dogs and cats and whatever, if they're attracted to you, good job. Keep it up. It means you're pumping out that positive vibe. They know it. They can feel it at a very, very unconscious level, and they will just They'll be drawn to you like a magnet. Why else is it important? Higher engagement of teams and employees, better employee retention, higher performing team. Yes, 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 Shireen, thank you so much for your contributions. I love it. Anyone else, please drop them into the chat box. So your emotional intelligence gives you a greater ability to respond instead of react. And we'll talk about more about that in a moment. What else have we got? You're going to be more productive and efficient, and maintains an environment of psychological safety, which encourages others to speak up. Now, I mean, guys, it's obvious here that all of this relates to leadership, and all of this relates to your life as well. The last one here is really specific, though, to leadership, right? So psychological safety, in short English words, is the ability to create a safe space where people feel safe to be able to speak up and share their ideas, to share their concerns, to talk about problems. And they can do so without any fear of humiliation or judgment or ridicule. And you can only do that, guys, if you maintain your high emotional intelligence. If you get angry and you're judgy and you're blamey and you're finger pointing, then guess what? Your team will never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever speak up about the elephant in the room, about that problem, about that possible opportunity, which could be a bit of a risk, but they're too afraid to talk about it because of your reaction. So don't do that, right? Instead, be open, be curious, create that safe space, have empathy, right? And practice your listening skills and encourage people to speak up, right? This is a really good way to help you to implement and do actual things to improve your emotional intelligence. Cool. All right. The secret to emotional intelligence. It's one word. Tell me in the chat box, guys, if you were to know what is the secret. Don't tell everyone. There's only 18 of us on the call right now, so we'll keep it our little secret. What do you think is the secret to emotional intelligence? And I'm going to give you a clue. The clue is in the chat box now. Starts with the letter A. What do you think is the secret to emotional intelligence? What do you think it is? Oh, Shireen, gold star, Shireen. Boom, boom, gold star for you. Exactly. Awareness is the secret to emotional intelligence. If you're not aware, then how can you change it, right? In other words, if you are not aware of your emotional intelligence, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be somewhere in between. If you're not aware, then you don't know what you don't know. So step number one is to be aware that, first of all, emotional intelligence is a thing, and that at this moment in time, your current level of emotional intelligence is here, for example, or here, or wherever it might be for you. This is no judgment. This is simply an opportunity for you to reflect on where your emotional intelligence might be. Now, awareness, right? Sounds great, huh? But I know the very next question you're thinking is, but how, Luke? How do I create more awareness to be able to manage my emotional intelligence? I'm glad you asked. So let's take a look. How to develop greater awareness for better emotional intelligence. I'm going to give you 3 steps here, guys, to help you to create more awareness about your emotional intelligence so that if you choose to, you can improve it to the next level. Number 1, know your triggers. So we all have certain things that trigger our emotions. And we're going to look at some examples in a moment, but that's the first part. In fact, this is the first and probably the most powerful step, because simply awareness of your triggers helps you to manage them so much easier. Number 2, choose your response. instead of reacting. So what happens to most people out there, we're triggered by a certain event or situation or person or place, and we're triggered, and then automatically we react. And that reaction is our old emotional behavior, right? Angry, frustration, sad, disappointed, whatever the emotion is, there's often a trigger, and then there's an immediate unconscious reaction. And it's unconscious for the simple reason that we've been doing it for so long. It's become an automated habit, right? An automated program where if I'm triggered by this thing, then this is the emotional reaction. So no, we don't want to automatically react anymore. We want to choose a different response, an empowered response. And then finally, if you really want to take your own awareness of your own behaviors and your own emotions, if you want to take it to the next level, then I invite you to embrace and be open to the feedback of others. Easier said than done, I know, but I'm going to share you a little framework that will hopefully help you to be more open to receiving feedback from others. Of course, normally, our typical reaction when we get feedback from others is typically defensive, right? Like we're ready to fight them with, it's not true, it's not fair, that wasn't me, it was them. And then so we get defensive and we actually miss out on a golden opportunity to become aware of something that we did not know that we did not know. So again, I'm going to share with you a process on how to make that a little bit easier for you. But one thing is for sure, if you can incorporate these three things, you'll have greater awareness and then therefore an elevated emotional intelligence in all situations, in life and in leadership. Now, let's take a look at these triggers, shall we? So, what are your triggers? And let's keep this in the context of work, all right? So in your leadership role or function, whether you're a business owner, whether you're transitioning between careers, whether you are early on in your leadership journey or you're a senior executive, wherever you are, have a look and see which one of these triggers might resonate with you. Which one of these pushes your buttons? So typically, these are some situations that will trigger your emotions. So there can be some external situations, meaning things that are happening outside of you. For example, somebody, could be your boss, could be your co-worker, could be that project member, could be Mary in accounting, right? Whoever it is, there is somebody who somehow has power over you and they just know where that button is. And they push that button and they push and they push it. And then your emotions just get triggered often. Or it could be some certain place. Now, again, it could be the work environment. It could be the boss's office. It could be the train station where you catch the train. Only you know if there's a certain place that pushes your buttons, right? So a certain place that gets you a little bit more agitated or more angry than normal, and only you know what that might be for you. A certain time of the day or the week. I remember many, many years ago when I was back in Australia, I was working in a factory, and when Sunday night would roll around, about 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, I would get the Sunday night blues. Why? Because it was time to go back to the factory the next day. And I would just like be moping around, you know, oh, the weekend is over, oh, back to work tomorrow. Oh. So there was a certain specific time in the week where I allowed myself to be triggered. It could be a certain situation, right, where, I don't know, well, for example, if you're talking about your colleagues, that the certain situation is someone is always late, for example, whether they're late to a meeting or they're late sending their report or they're late completing their work. That's an example of a certain situation or event, the lateness of somebody. So we're kind of combining the two there, and you find that pushes your buttons so much. Or there might be other situations and events. Someone, cutting you off in traffic, or someone who's always, in brainstormings and meetings, there's always someone who talks over the top of everyone. It might be that certain situation that really pushes your buttons. Kind of like that certain behavior, right? So they're a bit of a bully. There's someone who takes credit. They're disrespectful, right? A certain behavior really pushes your buttons. It could be a certain environment, and sometimes even a certain smell might trigger some kind of memory or emotion. So they're the external triggers. Internal, right, might be something like a certain memory, right? As soon as you think about that memory of that thing in the past, it might have been an old boss or a colleague. It might have been a project that did not go the way that you wanted it to go. So just by remembering those negative events in the past, it actually triggers those negative, disempowering emotions. So a memory, a physical pain in your body, right? So you bump your arm or your leg or your whatever, and just generally, guys, negative thoughts, right? So we saw in that model before that our thoughts together with our body language, the synergy creates our emotional state. So at its most fundamental, when you're thinking negative thoughts, that leads to negative emotions. Yeah. So you don't need to tell me in the chat box now, guys, but I invite you to reflect on this and to be aware of what your triggers are, right? So for example, I don't mind to share this silly one of mine. So I have a big bike and I ride it around here in Bangkok when I go to face-to-face meetings. And so often when I'm going to these meetings, I get dressed up a little bit, I get in my suit, and so I'm quite hot by the time I get to the other end. And, I want to get there. I like to get there early, and then I can go into the building, into the air-conditioned building. I'll go to the bathroom and splash water, and I'll cool down. So by the time the meeting is there, where I'm meeting a corporate client or an executive coaching client, I'm present, I'm cooled down, and all of that. Anyway, I can't tell you how many dramas I've had trying to park my motorbike at these office buildings here in Bangkok. Now, as I mentioned, it's a big bike. His name is Boris, so it's not easy to park in these tiny little places. And I'm always directed to there's this space like this, and I can't park, and the bike doesn't fit, and I'm getting hot, and I'm getting frustrated, and I just want to park the damn bike so I can go upstairs and have this beautiful, amazing meeting or coaching session. So in the past, I tell you, I would get into shouting matches with these security guards. And I know it's so silly. I know that they're just doing their job. I know that they have rules to follow. But you know what? It would trigger me, and my wife would just kind of walk away because she's going to get embarrassed. Anyway, in preparation for this today, just before our session today, I had a meeting over at a beautiful new office building here in Bangkok. And I caught myself, I thought, you know what, I've not been to this building before. It's a brand new, beautiful, stunning, huge building. Big client that I was going there to visit. And so I thought, now Luke, I know my trigger is parking Boris. So what can I do differently this time? Long story short, I just arrived very, very early. I arrived very, very early. I cruised around. I took my time. I was polite to the security guards. I asked them where to park. As I got to the boom gate thing, I got my ticket. I said in my broken Thai, big bike, bye nay. And then the very kind security showed me exactly where I could go. And I went straight in there and I parked beautifully. Why? Because I was aware of the trigger that I had in the past. And so I took that awareness to change my actions and behavior. in the moment. I didn't have the pressure of time because I was running late. I made sure I had plenty of all of that. I parked. I was easily able to go upstairs, find my way around, get into the bathroom, splash, splash, cold, cold, aircon, aircon, and had a beautiful, beautiful meeting. So this is an example of just how being aware of your trigger can absolutely and positively change the way that you impact the world around you and how you can feel better inside because it feels good to feel good. Yeah? So, oh, hello. We have another Luke on the call today there, or is that something I just typed to myself? Being unable to engage everyone in the meeting room without having to turn my head from side to side more than a minimal amount. I preferably aim for a corner seat to manage it. Okay. Fellow Aussie, awesome Luke. Clearly we're awesome. Yeah, so nice one, Luke. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so being placed strategically in a meeting room, especially if you're the leader, is very important, right? So this is one of the ways that you found that you can actually manage your own triggers. So good for you. All right, let's keep moving. Now, when our triggers are fired, in other words, when someone pushes your button or that situation, that place, that time, that person, whatever it is, typically we react in these negative emotions: angry, frustrated, sad, depressed, anxious, fearful, overwhelmed or confused, criticized and judged. We feel betrayed, lonely or unloved. These are the typical negative responses that we can feel. Now, what if that when we become aware of this trigger, that we know about it because we have shone the spotlight of awareness, now that we are aware of it, we actually take its power away. So what if instead of just reacting, which by the way, our reaction is automatic, unconscious, negative, and instant. Let me say that again. Our reaction is often automatic. It's a habit, it's a program, because we've done it for a long time. It's negative and it's like right away. So what if instead of reacting, we choose our response? And this quote sums it up beautifully by Viktor Frankl, when he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So what he's saying here is the stimulus, that's the trigger, right? Or that event or situation, something that's happening out there. That's the stimulus. Now, for most people, when we have that stimulus, automatic negative reaction. So what we're saying is there's actually a space. So our job to be a great leader with high emotional intelligence is to create a wider space. So it kind of looks like this, right? Normally for most people, because guess what? The space is our conscious awareness. So the stimulus is that event, that situation, that unknown, that person, that place, it's unpredictable, whatever. And then because there's no space, we have that reaction, automatic, unconscious, negative. Anger, frustration, sadness, fear, hopelessness, whatever it might be, right? That negative emotion. Now, what if between the stimulus and the response, not reaction, the response, we make that space wider? We create a greater space, which creates greater conscious awareness. And with that greater conscious awareness, we can now respond instead of react. So we might choose to reflect. We might choose some kind of conscious action or behavior. We might make an empowered decision. We might make a conscious choice. And so in that moment, guys, you're breaking that old habit of that automatic, unconscious, negative reaction, right? So our job is to create space. How do we do that? I'm glad you asked. This is how we do it. SPACE is an acronym. So when you feel that trigger coming on, right? And by the way, it's really important, guys, you need to do your homework and find out what those triggers are. Because I'm telling you, as soon as you know what your triggers are, you've removed 80% of the negative influence of that trigger just by being aware of what your triggers are. And you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be a little bit courageous, and that's okay. So S stands for stop, right? So when you feel the trigger coming on, just stop, pause, take a time out, right? So you stop what you're doing, you pause. By pausing, you can take a breath, you can count to 10, you can do whatever you need to do. And it's in that moment, as you stop and pause, now you've created this space. And it's inside that space that, again, you're shining the spotlight of awareness. You can go, thank you, trigger. Nice, I see you there. Interesting. You know what? I think I'm going to respond differently today. So this is what you do next, is you consider the consequences of your next action, right? So in other words, if I do this, then that's likely to happen, or I could do this, and then this is likely to happen, or I might do this, and then this is likely to happen. You can consider the chain of events that are going to happen from your next action, keeping in mind that your action is something that you do or that you communicate, right? Your behavior. Then, once you kind of assess and become aware of those consequences, then you engage, right? You take action, right? Let me give you a clear example. I'm sure it's happened to you before. You've got that email from your boss, and the boss is kind of like blaming you, maybe finger pointing, it's your fault. They didn't say it directly, they made it a bit fluffy. It's come to my attention, blah, 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 blah. And so typically, your normal reaction would, you'd read that and you'd be like, screw you, boss, type, send. That's the old model. That's the reactive model. I'm sure you've done that once in your life, and then 10 minutes later, you've gone, oh, shit. Oh, I wish I did not send that. And it could be your boss or a customer or a colleague, whatever it is. That's the old model, reaction. What if now you get that email, right? You're going to use your space model here. You get that email from your boss, and you can feel the trigger, and you go, whoops, stop, Luke, stop, pause. You take a breath, awareness. Because here's the thing, when you read it the first time, you sometimes delete important pieces of information. So you might choose to reread it. You might take a deep breath. You might even go for a quick walk and then come back and create more awareness about the message. Then you can think, okay, I could respond and be angry. That's not going to work. Maybe I could just say, sounds good, boss. See you at the meeting. Let's discuss further, right? And maybe you choose that line of action, the consequences of that action are much, much better, and so that's what you decide to do. Sounds good, boss. Looking forward to discussing in more detail. See you at the meeting. Send. Right? So now, same situation, right? That same stimulus, the email from the boss, yet you've handled it in a much, much better way. Because why? You've created yourself that space. Yeah? Now, we'll talk about the space in a little bit more, but here's one more thing, right? Which was the third part, receiving feedback with the 4D framework, all right? So again, you want to create more awareness, right? With your increased awareness comes your emotional intelligence. So very quickly, guys, if someone is giving you feedback, I want you to follow this model here. First D is data or data, depending on where you're from. The feedback that is given to you, it's just information and data. At this point, it may or may not be correct. That's okay. It may or may not be true. We don't know. So I just want you to treat it as data and information. That's all it is. It's just words, right? You don't have to, which brings us to the next D. You don't have to take it personally, especially if the other person is getting angry and they're blah, blah, blah to you. Well, guess what? That's not feedback anymore. That's their lack of emotional intelligence, even if you did something wrong. even if you did mess up, then it still does not give them permission to lose their cool and be shouting like that to you. So do not take their emotional outburst, do not take it personally. It's not yours to own. Then, this is probably the toughest, dare to seek the truth, right? So you need to get outside your comfort zone. You need to ask yourself, is this feedback true for me? Now, based on my personal experience working with thousands of leaders, I would say that 90% of the time the feedback is true in some degree, and 10% of the time it's not true. So guess what? In the 10% of the time that it's not true, let it go. It's not worth fighting over. Now, it might be that you might decide to take it further and say, well, thank you for sharing your feedback, boss. And I believe this is a distortion of reality. I'd like us to discuss it in a little bit more detail, please. And you do that with your own emotional intelligence. Why? Because you did not take it personally. Now, for the 90% of the time that it is true for you, or some element of it is true for you, then you need to decide. What do I mean by that? Decide what action that you will take to improve yourself, to transform yourself, and then take those actions. So again, when you get this feedback and you dare to ask yourself, is this true for me? You might not get the answer immediately, right? Sometimes you do. You go, damn it, okay, you're right, thank you. But guess what? Sometimes it might take an hour. Sometimes it might take a couple of hours. Sometimes it might take a day or even more. For the simple reason that that feedback might be something that you did not know that you did not know. So yeah, it might rattle the cage a little bit. But if you're honest and courageous with yourself, if you're willing to take a step back and really look at yourself, and that feedback is true for you, then just make a decision about what you can do to improve yourself. The voice got echo. Does anyone else have an echo, or just anal? Anyone else have an echo? Can you? Okay. All right. Let me see if I can push the magic button. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why. How about that, guys? Is that a little bit better now? Testing, 1, 2. Okay. I don't have any other speakers on around me. I do apologise for that, guys. I'm not sure why. Okay. No, thank you, Sue. I don't have 2 devices on. I've only got the one device. I'm just double checking here. Let me come out of the screen here for a second, guys, just to double check my settings. I do apologise for that, guys. I will warn you, I'm not very techy, so please bear with me. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me there? I can see you, Shireen. Is that any better, or is it? Oh, it's fixed. Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. Much better. Awesome. Thank you for letting me go. There we go. That's a perfect example of feedback. Thank you for sharing that feedback with me. Even though I'm not a techie and I immediately start freaking out when things technical don't work, I managed to stay calm. I pushed a button, which was something on the microphone setting. I just went from one microphone to another. I've only got one microphone here. I don't have anything else. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it, guys. I'm glad I was able to improve myself and not freak out. Very good. All right, let's get back to the slides, shall we? Thank you for that. Okay, so practice your 4D model as a way to create more awareness so that you can better manage your emotional state. Let's keep going. I've got 11 minutes on the clock. Here are 3 powerful tools to manage your emotions. And by the way, if you are in a leadership role, by the way, which if you're a parent or you're a member of your community or your church or whatever, then you can apply these tools in any context. So let's just come back to space for a moment, right? Because I think it's so simple, yet I think it's very, very powerful. So my question here is, right, we remember space is to stop, is to pause, to create that awareness, to consider the consequences. If I do this, or if I do this, or if I do this, then once you've considered those consequences, then engage. So here is a few extra tips on how you can create that space, especially, I guess, during the pause moment, right? To create that more awareness. Breathe, right? I know it sounds super simple, but by simply breathing, by taking in a couple of deep breaths, you give yourself just those extra couple of seconds to be able to decide how to consciously respond. Remember, we're moving away from unconscious, automatic, negative reaction. And because, by the way, that is a habit, guys. Your negative reactions, those negative emotions, it's just a habit and it's on autopilot. And so the only way to break a habit is to literally break the habit. And that's why we need to stop and pause to create this space. Because in that moment, you're outside of the program, right? Let me say that again. In that moment, when you stop and take that time out, you are now outside of the automatic program, that automatic reaction. So whatever you need to do to create that space, then that's what you want to do. So breathe is a really good way. Count to 10 in Thailand. Nung, song, sam, si, ha. Or if it's a big thing, count to 100, count to 1,000, however long it needs you to count, then count to that number. Walk away. Did you know in many, many situations, including your boss, you can choose to walk away? You actually have that option. Tell me what else, guys. Tell me in the chat box, please. What else could you do to be able to create more space? If you've got some ideas, what works for you, tell me in the chat box, please. And this one's important, guys. If you are talking with that person and you know that person is good at pushing your buttons and you've been triggered from that person in the past, did you know that you do not have to react in a nanosecond? You don't. Nowhere in the world or in your company rules and regulations does it say that you have to respond in a nanosecond. You don't. It's not a rule. So you can say something like, thank you, let me get back to you. Good point. I need to reflect on that a little bit. Thank you for sharing. Can I let you know later this afternoon? Wow, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I actually don't know. Please let me get back to you within tomorrow, right? So you don't have to, right? Because remember, guys, your emotional intelligence is related to your mental health. And nothing is worth sacrificing your mental health, including workplace bullies and people with unrealistic demands, including your boss, right? Or your business partner or whoever. So if you need to take a time out, then you take a time out. You do whatever you need to do. I'll get back to you. Or remember, guys, remember we talked about thoughts and body, the synergy between the two is your emotional state. So go for a walk, stretch your legs, get a cup of tea, go to the water cooler, go for a walk around the office, go and get some fresh air, walk to the 7-Eleven, ride the elevator to the rooftop bar, all right? Whatever you need to do, just move your body a little bit because it helps free up your thoughts and emotions around that event, that situation, that person, that thing. I can't get past the 5. Exactly, Adrian. On the email example, first write the email that you want to write, go away, come back, yeah, delete, 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 and then write the one that would probably get the better response. Exactly. This is a nice way. I often do this too. because it's a good way to vent, right? So write down, that immediate, to get it out of your system, then go for the walk, watch a kitten or puppy video on YouTube, whatever you need to do to change your emotional state, come back, read it again. Ooh, delete, 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 delete. Okay, boss. Yep. See you in 30 minutes. Right. So excellent example there. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So look, one of the easiest ways, guys, to give yourself this space is to join us at our retreat, what we call Relax, Realign, Refocus, happening in Chiang Mai this month. Now, registrations do close this week, so please do let us know if you or a group of your friends or colleagues would like to join us. It is the opportunity to step out of your daily life. It is a chance to relax, to realign with your higher purpose, whatever that might be for you, and then to refocus, to engage and take action to create that next level of your life, whatever that is for you. Facilitated by myself and my amazing partner, Coach Christy, in beautiful Chiang Mai. So there are direct flights from KL and Singapore and Vietnam and wherever you are in the world. Regular investment is 50,000 baht. The special webinar investment, and by the way, this includes pick up from the airport. All you need to do is fly yourself to Chiang Mai. Everything else is taken care of. We're going to pick you up and drop you off. You've got 2 nights accommodation. All meals are included, healthy meals, all activities are included, including the elephant sanctuary, including exploring the night markets in Chiang Mai, and of course, some really deep workshop activities as well as some yoga and some Tai Chi and some good stuff like that. Come with 2 of you, it's only 35,000 each. So please do let us know because it was going to be closing for registrations this week. So please let us know on that one. One of the other magical tips that you can do, guys, is meditate. Now, there's kind of a 3-step process that's happening in meditation, and whether you do a silent meditation or, back when I started out meditating, what worked best for me was to have a guided meditation, which is basically soft music and then a voice kind of guiding me into a deeper sense of relaxation. Because it's only when you get to this state of relaxation that you can create more awareness of your existing patterns and programs, especially your triggers and your responses to those triggers. So meditation is, again, it's putting the spotlight of awareness on your current operating system. Then, when you are aware of the current operating system, you can upgrade by manifesting or creating the life you want and deserve. So for those of you interested in meditation, we have an awesome session. I'm the only certified Dr. Joe consultant in Southeast Asia. And this is a training on basically mindfulness and meditation, really good for organizations and for leaders in those organizations. It's still a couple of months away, so you've got some time. Regular investment, 29,900. Special webinar investment, 17,500. It really is a game changer. If you want to take your emotional intelligence to the next level and understand how the program works, please come and join me for that. It's on a Saturday and Sunday here in Bangkok, lunches included. The final tool that I want to share with you is some simple coaching questions that you can self-coach for yourself, or you can actually use this with other people, your teams, your colleagues, if you want to help them to manage their emotional intelligence. So whenever you're feeling that negative thinking and or negative emotion, you can use this tool that we call reframing, right? So the simple question, and by the way, I just invite you to try this, right? You don't need to understand the details and the mechanics of this. Just know that it works. And I just invite you to practice it tomorrow. Next time you feel your emotion getting a little bit out of control on that situation or event, that thing that happened that made you feel that negative way, ask yourself 1 or 2 of these questions. What could be good about this event or situation? What can I learn from this event or this situation? Or what can I do differently with this event or situation if it was to happen again? So in other words, you get the learnings and you get the fresh perspective, in which, guys, it empowers you. It's like putting some superpower in your pocket so it can help you to deal with a similar situation if it happens in the future, right? We call that resilience. And you will find a magical thing happens, that your negative emotion will go from here and you'll be able to significantly manage it and control it. And finally, if none of those questions work, you can ask yourself, what could be the silver lining? Which is another way of saying what could be good about this. It's kind of like, what's the hidden benefit here that I'm not seeing yet? And this tool called reframing, you learn the mechanics of this and many, many other coaching tools in our NLP Leadership 4-in-1 certification right here in Bangkok. It is a face-to-face training, 6th to 10th of July. And that reframing tool, you're going to learn it, you're going to practice it, you're going to understand the mechanics behind it. Normally 79,900, special webinar investment, just 50,000 baht. Or if you're going to come with 2 people, 95,000 for 2 person. So, ladies and gents, thank you all for joining me on Webinar Wednesday. Let me quickly check the chat box. Thank you very much, Shireen. Really appreciate your contributions today. Thank you so much. And I'd just like everyone to say thank you for joining me today. And I would hope to welcome you at one of our workshops soon. I'll be sending through an email later tonight or tomorrow with the details of those workshops. We hope to see you then. Until next time, guys, please stay cool and stay awesome. Ciao, ciao. Thank you, guys.